Pets Add Life, your guide to the latest in pet trends, products, and the joy of the human-animal bond, with Kristen Levine and Chris Bonafati, powered by the American Pet Products Association and Dog TV.
Hey there, Chris.
How's it going?
I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing.
But it's because I'm hilarious, that's why.
Well,
you took one look at my face and you're like, oh, this goofball.
Okay, here we are. We've got a really fun show today. I think there's a Dummies book for literally every topic in the universe. And we're going to be talking to the author of Puppies for Dummies, as well as a really good friend of mine who has a blog called Fidose of Reality. I don't want to tell you her name yet. We'll keep it a secret.
That's a secret.
Yeah,
that's a secret that only people 10 to 15 minutes from now will be able to explore. This is going to be an awesome information-packed episode. We're going to be handing you guys over some real premium info on being an amazing pet owner. Now, Kristen, last week I was a little upset with you about mentioning that we're in fall, but I think now that I sit here, I'm ready. I'm ready for fall. I'm accepting it. It's here. There's nothing that I can do to stop it other than move to Florida, and that's not gonna happen. Florida will never get its clutches on me. That much is for sure. But this is going to be good point. It's going to be a great episode. If you start missing summer, you just go back to Florida. Sorry, I'm talking all over you. What's going on here? I don't know. It's hectic. It's hectic over here. I think something must be in retrograde. If you are is it astrologist? What's the fake one? Astrology? Ooh, I shouldn't have said fake. I'm going to get yelled at by a bunch of people on Instagram. Yeah, which is astronomy is that one you go to college for. Astrology is the one you get in the newspaper.
Yes, I believe
all right, so astrologists out there, tell us what's in retrograde that's making Kristen and I interrupt each other all episode long. But let's see if we could fix that. We got a whole episode to get it right. So let's go ahead and dive into this episode of the PAL Podcast.
Kristen and Chris present Storytime.
All right, Chris, it's story time, and I'm really kind of excited about my story this week. It's a little sentimental. So you might want to grab Kleenex.
All right. See if I have any around here.
I was cleaning out, we moved a year and a half ago, so I've still got boxes that I haven't even touched. So I was going through one of the boxes and I came across this book. It's called Jimmy Stewart and His Poems. For those youngins in the audience, Jimmy Stewart was a famous film actor, probably most famously known for It's a Wonderful Life movie. But he also had a great love for dogs, and he published a book of poems. The book is not a book of dog or pet poems. It's just random poems, but one of them is about a dog named Bo. And I'd like to have you listen to him do a little bit of it.
He never came to me when I would call unless I had a tennis ball, or he felt like it. But mostly he didn't come at all. When he was young, he never learned to heel or sit or stay. He did things his way. Discipline was not his bag, but when you were with him, things sure didn't drag. He'd dig up a rose bush just to spite me, and when I'd grab him, he'd turn and bite me. He bit lots of folks from day to day. The delivery boy was his favorite prey.
Now, I wish we could play the whole thing, but it's a little bit long. I'm just going to kind of read the last few. Is it stanzas? Is that what we say in poetry?
Stanzas. I don't know. I'm not a poet. I just yell into a microphone.
Well, let me just read the last part of it here. He would wake up at night, and he would have this fear of the dark, of life, of lots of things, and he'd be glad to have me near. And now he's dead. And there are nights when I think I feel him climb up on our bed and lie between us, and I pat his head. And there are nights when I think I feel that stare, and I reach out my hand to stroke his hair, but he's not there. Oh, how I wish that wasn't so. I'll always love a dog named Bo. So I didn't mean to bring you all down, make you sad, but I think we all can relate to any of us who've had a dog or a cat even. We can relate to a dog named Bo. And I just think this is a really great gift idea for anybody in your life who loves dogs and perhaps has lost a dog. Because even though it's a sad poem, it makes you laugh and smile and remember all the good times.
Yeah, and Jimmy Stewart is just a regular piece of Americana. So
he's
for all you
incredible.
Gen Zers out there who are like, Jimmy Stewart, who's Jimmy Stewart? And why'd he talk so funny? What was that all about? Just get onto IMDb, pick one of the films and watch it. Just sit down. Don't turn your phone off for, they're older movies. They're like 80 minutes long, okay? Put the phone down and watch the damn film.
You need to. And by the way, Rainbow Bridge Remembrance Day is a day when we remember our beloved pets that have passed away. It was celebrated a couple weeks ago in August. But that's just a great way to remember a beloved pet. And we'll drop a link to the entire segment where he reads the poem on the Johnny Carson Tonight Show. We'll drop a link in the show notes.
There we go. All right. I'm going to try and right this ship towards optimism and maybe a little smile. But Chris B, the Science G, is back with more
thank goodness.
pet-based research. Yeah, he's here. You know what I need? I need a lab coat for these segments. I gotta get myself like a lab coat and maybe some eye protection, some goggles. Whenever people are doing science, they're always protecting their eyes, right?
And a pocket protector.
Yeah, pocket protector, because God forbid ink gets inside of my pocket of my white lab coat. That would drive my dry cleaner crazy. So anyway, on to the actual story. This is a scientific journal published. Some scientists have managed to ad hoc stop a form of inherited blindness in dogs. So there is a rare genetic disease called progressive retinal atrophy, which is essentially something that just gets passed down. And over time, your dog will lose, if they have the disease, will lose their eyesight. And then there are a lot of dogs who carry the marker for the disease that then pass it down. And for a while, the string of genes that actually caused the disease were unknown. But the study's author, Dr. Catherine Stanbury, out of the University of Cambridge, so that's how you know they're a good one, they have now have a DNA test, so there's no reason why another dog ever needs to be born with this form of progressive retinal atrophy. Gives breeders a way of totally eliminating the disease. So with most genetic diseases, you really can't fix it with any type of medicine. It's all about having the awareness of who carries the disease and understanding that if they get matched up with a certain kind of partner, you are increasing the chances of the puppies in that litter of having the actual disease. So now, armed with this information, breeders will be able to take some steps to eliminate it entirely from the gene pool, which is amazing news. So great work by Dr. Stanbury and her team. I applaud you. And remember that, folks out there, there are a ton of people leading the charge to research our animals and their health. They don't necessarily get the funding that folks researching human diseases do. So if you ever come across any great charities, or if you'd like to look at HABRI, the Human Animal Bond Research Institute, they are a great charity that helps fund some of these things. It's always great to throw a couple dollars towards science. So be on the lookout for some of that stuff. And I'll try my best to raise awareness for some of these studies as we continue to do our humble little show here.
Beyond the Leash, exploring the untold stories of pet passion and professionalism.
All right, we are joined now by the wonderful Sarah Hodgson, who is a renowned dog trainer, behavior consultant, podcaster, and author known for her books, including Puppies for Dummies and the upcoming Dog Anxiety for Dummies. With a deep belief that dogs, cats, and even people need to feel safe and happy to enjoy learning, Sarah emphasizes the importance of communication over control in pet training. Using force-free methods, she helps pet owners understand their pet's motivations and develop strategies that leave everyone feeling understood and confident. Her approach focuses on assigning words to actions, instilling impulse control, and fostering good manners through fun, fear-free, and inclusive training sessions. So we welcome Sarah to the podcast. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to talk about this stuff.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. There's nothing I love more than talking about pets and their people and how to help them get along.
That's great. And, we talked a little bit in the pre-show how, we don't just offer the show to pet parents, but a lot of potential pet parents, right? People who may be listening in for some advice on how to get started. And I love that you've got a Puppies for Dummies, because I'm right there. I'm a big old dummy. So why don't you talk a bit about some of those basic training methods and how easy it can be. Make some of our people feel at ease about how simple and straightforward this can really be.
So one of the things I love to share with people is that there are a lot of similarities between our pets and our people. There are important differences, which I'll touch on too. But dogs, especially puppies, just like people and babies, we all have basic needs. We need to eat, drink, sleep, go to the bathroom, and play. When those needs are met, we feel content and happy. And setting up a routine, setting up a pattern, setting up a plan, structuring just the events of the day are really important. Now, when dogs have an unmet need, like they might be overtired or they might need to go to the bathroom, people know that if the puppy were a child, they would cry and they would be able to recognize that. With a puppy, the way they express an unmet need is by nipping. So when people begin to understand, oh, we have a lot of similarities. When they feel dysregulated, when they have a need that's not being met, they'll let me know, and they'll let me know by nipping. And instead of getting frustrated with that behavior, I can just follow the routine and help the puppy take care of those needs and get on with it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Would you say that that's one of the most common challenges that pet parents face, is not recognizing the cues that our pets are giving to us?
Well, it's fascinating you bring that up, because I think people bring home a dog and there's so much excitement in getting the dog and getting the puppy and bringing them home. And then they're like, now what? They don't understand that a puppy, like a baby, needs set sleeping. They have sleep and wake cycles. And like I always tell people, we're diurnal. We're up during the day. We sleep at night. Some animals are nocturnal. When you bring home a puppy, if you recognize that they need to sleep at night, and they also need those 2 naps. And those 2 naps are so important because the puppy is growing. And without the right amount of sleep and without structured patterns during the day, the puppy can get very dysregulated, which leads to nipping and jumping and hyperactive behavior. When puppy people recognize and structure the day, the puppy's actually quite calm. It's not so frantic, and just knowing what to do and what to expect and how the puppy is feeling and relating to their world gives people a lot of agency over that experience. And they can make it like a family affair. So it's a fun experience. It's not this dysregulated hodgepodge getting up 2 and 3 times in the night. One thing people don't recognize is that when puppies first come home, they cry in the middle of the night, not necessarily because they need to be swept out of the crate and taken out to go potty. They're crying for their mom. There's that a couple of day period where deep sleep is hard for the puppy. And when they recognize that a young puppy can easily sleep through the night, this gives them more confidence in kind of orchestrating that process and teaching the puppy how to sleep in their crate and getting right on the crate training from day one.
That's all really great info, Sarah. I mentioned at the top of your intro there, your force-free training methods. So can you give us a quick rundown on what that means and how it may differ from some other training methods that may be out there?
Sure. So I think a lot of people think of dog training as almost a military experience. And this turns a lot of people off to loving a dog and owning a dog or bringing a dog into their family. There were a lot, I've been doing this 40 years, and initially there were a lot of methods that, we only really had choke chains and tennis balls in order to motivate dogs. But the past decade has shown and reflected so much biology on the fact that dogs learn best when they're motivated with joy and treats and toys and positive reinforcement. So in terms of training a dog or bringing a dog in, the methods should make you feel happy and more relaxed, not like you're suddenly running a military school. It's not about dominance so much as it is about cooperation.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know, Sarah, how do your training methods or how you guide people in training their dogs, how does it differ from besides housebreaking? How might it differ from bringing a new puppy home to adopting, say, an adult dog from an animal shelter or a rescue?
Sure. So I always start with the number one thing a dog or puppy wants to feel is safe. If they don't feel safe, they can't relax. And if they can't relax, they can't learn. All dogs and puppies need to be able to predict what's happening in their everyday life. They need those grounded certainties in order to feel regulated. There have been so many studies done on dogs. So whether we're talking about a puppy or whether we're talking about bringing in an older shelter dog, there have been so many studies done on the balance of emotional and rational thought processes. Let me give you an example. If you walk into a room and the dog or the puppy jumps up very excitedly, and you react to that behavior, either by pushing the dog down or by petting the dog learns that when I'm with people, I'm very excited and I'm very happy. Now that's okay, except if you're like, oh, I don't want my dog to jump. I want my dog to be calm. And what you recognize when you work with me or people like me, that coach simple shifts in human behavior to modify dogs, that if you walk into a room and the puppy's jumping and you stay present, but you're calm, then the puppy learns to mirror the calmness you're modeling, and then you can just reinforce the puppy when they've calmed down. So regarding whether to, because a lot of people want to know, should I adopt a puppy from a breeder or should I go to the shelter? And what is the difference there? The difference is in what the dog or puppy has been habituated to. When you get a puppy, they simply know, they've had 9 weeks with their mother, and you get them home and you get to imprint on that puppy. When you get a dog from a shelter, you're not always sure where the dog has been or what the dog has experienced. And so they have learned different routines that you then have to kind of undo to teach them how, the routines of your everyday life. This all boils down to the internal experience, and this relates to my book, Dog Anxiety for Dummies. When puppies feel safe, when they know the routines of everyday life, when they're set up and consistent, then their stress level is down. Their adrenaline and cortisol, this isn't a good way to explain it if we can just kind of go back a minute. When you have a dog, you have two states of mind. One is rest and digest and relax and enjoy experiences with you, and levels of emotional arousal. which when a dog is emotionally aroused, they have heightened levels of adrenaline and cortisol.
So, Sarah, you were just talking a bit about how dogs learn best when they're in a nice relaxed state. And sometimes we'll have a dog who has some really bad anxiety, and that emotion can override their ability to learn. So can you talk to us a bit about recognizing that anxiety in dogs and how to get that dog to a relaxed state so that they're going to learn best?
Absolutely. Here's the thing to remember. Dogs either model our behavior or their perception is that we're mirroring what they're modeling. So often when a dog gets anxious, there's a rise in adrenaline and cortisol. You can tell because the dog will get very fidgety, they'll move around, they can't focus, they feel very dysregulated. Unfortunately, what people do is feel very dysregulated when their dog acts like that, which feeds the anxiety because they're paying attention, and in trying to calm them down, they're doing all the things that are completely normal if you were dealing with a person. They make direct eye contact, they pet the dog, they crouch down low, but in doing those behaviors, the voice goes up high, they stare directly at the dog, which to dogs is perceived as confrontational. Humans are the only mammal that see eye to eye as comforting, that see a smile as friendly. When you're like, oh, it's okay, to a dog, their anxiety jacks up. And then it becomes this vicious cycle because the dog feels like their emotions are being reflected. What they need is an anchor. They've done studies now to show, within the past 2 years, to show two fascinating points. One, that calm, synchronized breath is very comforting to a dog.
Interesting.
I make my class do it. They love it. People eat it up because we'll all do class synchronized breathing, and their dogs will immediately lie down, and they're like, holy moly. Second thing that's fascinating that they've shown is that dogs can sense our moods even before we feel them. They can sense change in our heart rate and our breathing. So there is nothing you can hide from your dog. My effort in being in the world is training people. When you teach a dog, it's not a military exercise. It's not 10 minutes a day. Dog training is simply teaching English as a second language. Associate a word to an action, a word to an object. Say outside, go to your spot. Tell them to get busy as they're potting. But what you're doing is you're not labeling. What you're doing is not commanding them to do something. You're labeling the behavior. And when you do that calmly and with love in your heart, and you reinforce them in a calm manner, dogs can learn a word to an action within 6 to 10 repetitions. So when I take young puppies in, and I bring 8-week-old puppies here for a week or two, we get them house trained, we get them sleep trained. That's the most important window because we stay calm. There's a consistent routine. The sleep patterns are organized from the time, they leave the litter. The dogs learn like little sponges. They want to learn English, but they're learning it as a second language. Yeah. For a dog, the way they communicate is through posture and moving their tail. They can smell how we're feeling. They don't understand how we're feeling. They can smell it. They smell our hormones like perfume. So doing all these things and understanding the biology of dogs is really important. A, if you're getting one, and B, if you want to modify your dog's anxiety or motivate behavior. The simplest equation I give people is the following. Every action your dog does is followed by a reaction from you that will either extinguish the behavior or encourage it. And the best discipline I give people when their dog is jumping or mouthing or whatever they're doing is if you like it, reinforce it with love, attention, and rewards. If you don't like it, simply take your hands and cover your face. And it is mind-blowing. Everybody who works for me is like, whoa, that's amazing. The dog jumped and I just covered my face. And they immediately sat down. And then, as soon as they sit down, you just kneel down and reward them with whatever. You don't need e-collars. You don't need choke collars. You don't need to drag dogs around. We have this misconception that leashes give us control, so we hold them tight. But what we don't realize when we're holding an animal tight by the neck or by the body is that we have them caught in a trap. And when an animal feels caught in a trap and that freedom reflex, that pulling reflex gets triggered, their adrenaline and cortisol go up, leading to leash reactivity and leading to more anxiety throughout the day. Dog training is simple, but you have to be willing to be trained yourself.
Sarah, I'm soaking this up like a sponge, as you mentioned. And if our listeners are feeling the way I am and wanting to learn more from you, how can we go about doing that?
I am a prolific writer. I'm always working on my next book. I have my next book in the hatch. I also am on Instagram and Facebook daily. I have a TikTok, and I also help people privately, either through virtual calls or in person. If you're in the tri-state area, I have group class. This is all I do. I love it. As you learned, I don't even know how to turn on a microphone.
Yeah, it's clear that you know exactly what you're doing. You bring so much passion and information to this topic. So we thank you so much for your time, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Okay, bye.
Wow, I was soaking up that passion and energy from her, and I can't wait to try this. Covering my eyes.
Yeah.
Next time Tulip barks at the UPS driver.
It's crazy how similar dogs and people are. You know what I mean? Like, the concepts of adrenaline and cortisol and things like that. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of special technical knowledge. Sometimes it's just a little bit of empathy and understanding.
That's true. Check Sarah out.
So, Kristen, why don't you go ahead and introduce us to our next guest?
I would love to do that because she is a dear friend and someone I've known for a really long time. Her name is Carol Bryant, and she's a renowned Cocker Spaniel expert with over 30 years of experience. And she was actually introduced once by Gail King of Oprah Radio as a dog lover of the highest order. And that describes Carol perfectly. She's really dedicated her life to the well-being of Cocker Spaniels and of course, other canine friends. She is the creator and owner of the trademark My Heart Beats Dog, which I just think is brilliant. And as a pet industry veteran, Carol has been on TV, radio, podcasts like this one, and she's authored hundreds of articles on top sites like CNN, Yahoo, Dogster, and Today.com. But through her blog, Fidose of Reality, isn't that a great name? Fidose of Reality. Through her blog, Carol provides well-researched information, expert commentary, and hands-on tips to help the modern dog parent make informed decisions about their pets. And with that introduction finally over, it was a little bit long, but there's so much great stuff to talk about you, Carol. You're fantastic. Welcome.
Oh, thanks. I'm so excited to be here. This is just a treat for me. I can't wait.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw your name on the list of our next guests. And let's just talk about, let's kick it off. Since we met originally as bloggers, let's kick off by talking about what inspired you to create Fidose of Reality, and how has your mission kind of evolved over the years?
Absolutely. So I think you and I are the OG bloggers. We're like gangster blogs back in the day when people were like, what is a blog?
Right.
I couldn't find the answers I wanted always talking to my veterinarian. It's not a replacement for my vet. But I wanted things that I could help people what questions to ask their vet. Or I'd go looking for something and somebody would tell me here and somebody would tell me. I thought, why don't put that all together into what's this blog thing that's going on? And I literally on a wing and a prayer, just built my first blog by myself. And at the time I thought, I love reality shows and dogs. So let's call it Fidose of Reality, because that's normal. And it evolved into really reality-based, real truth, none of this nonsense, talking about dogs. And that evolved. You just can't be the dog blogger. You need to have the niche or the niche, however you say it. And Cocker Spaniels have my heart. I love all dogs, but I'm drawn to that breed. They seem to find me. And I decided to make the the blog dedicated to Cocker Spaniels for their health and wellness.
That's
Yes.
absolutely awesome. And I've had the pleasure of meeting a few Cocker Spaniels in my days, but I'm curious what it is about the Cocker Spaniel that really makes that heart skip a beat for you.
Yeah, they're everything in this medium-sized package for me. They're curious, they're fun, they're nosy. Men stop me and they say, "Is it a good hunting dog?" And women say, "Can I pet him and kiss him?" And it's that kind of thing. And they're very much like me. They're very curious, but fun and loyal, as all dogs are. But it's just something about the breed that, and I like this. I'm really kind of sick in this way. I like when they cling to me. I find that joyful. And it's just, I have more separation anxiety when I go out than he does. Like, I miss the dog. So that's it. I mean, I feel like in a past life, I might have been a Cocker Spaniel because I'm all happy. Kristen knows.
Yeah.
But I could also be serious when you need me to be.
What is some of your favorite topics to write about Cockers, and what kind of feedback do you get from your readers who are obviously Cocker Spaniel lovers?
Yeah, I love to write about health in conjunction with experts. So being that Kristen, both of our dogs suffered and passed from one of the worst cancers, they're all bad on the planet, writing about my own personal experience. So then having people find me in a Google search and saying, "I read that and then I had this test done for my dog," or "I read that and now my vet's doing ultrasounds." Things that are on my blog that they're finding when they come back to me. I have a gal who her dog's gums were pale, so she rushed him to the vet because of something she read on my blog, and she said I saved the dog's life because she never would have thought at night before bed to look at the dog's gums. And so it's those kind of things that I mean, if I could just live on blogging and just the non-monetary aspect of it, I would, because the joy I get from it. So writing about health, wellness, and I've really evolved into my grief articles have been very successful for me because I think we all have that in common.
Right. And, I currently, I have two people in my life that are important to me who have lost pets. And, it just kind of brings back memories of those experiences that I've had and that our family's had. And as you said, we have that thing in common where we lost both of our dogs within a couple of months of each other,
Yes.
to hemangiosarcoma. But I think one thing that's always been really important for me when a pet passes is finding ways to honor their memory and what they meant to us. So I assume you write about that too, about like different ways to honor these pets. It's part of the grieving process, right? It helps us process it.
Absolutely. Number one was I just was so blindsided by this. And I thought, if I'm blindsided, there are others who don't see it coming. I've had dogs my whole life, and I've had them suffer like long periods of time where you see the condition taking them slowly. And I don't know what's worse. I really don't, to have it happen quickly or it's prolonged. I mean, it's sad either way. And that's the deal we make. It's kind of an odd deal when we bring a dog into our life, because it's like you kind of know how the story's going to end, but you still pick up another book, right? You still start another book, you start another chapter. And losing him, I changed my thinking, how I decided after my heavy grief, going to a grief counselor, joining a pet loss support group. I was in shock. I think the first 3 months, I just thought this did not happen. I really, truly, for as far as I've come in my life, and I consider myself an intelligent person, I could not process that happened. And friends and family said, you actually need to get help. You're telling everybody else how to do this, and you need to go talk to someone. That was my first thing. Don't be ashamed. Like, to honor him, I had to take care of myself, because you don't realize, well, I do now, how much that dog means to you. I mean, he was really my soul dog,
Yeah.
You met him, and we all have that one. And so what I did was, like, I decided to shift my mindset. You can't undie, but you also can't unlive. This is what I tell myself. So his legacy is going on through me. So he might have only had 13 years, but I'm going to do things in his name so people don't forget him. People don't forget the life force he was, because I don't want his life to be about how it ended. And so how I honor him, it's all the things from candles to jewelry to pictures to I donate. I now am involved with hemangiosarcoma. That's got to go. I get more awareness about it. And so I think for everybody, there's no one right way to grieve. And so I don't have the ultimate answer, but it also inspired me. I'm writing a book about it because so many people aren't into, well, journal your thoughts or, light a candle and think about your pet. That's great. But not everybody didn't work for me. That just my writing, it didn't work for me.
You know what I found is that
I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah. It really is. It's most helpful to me just to talk about him, and my husband and I to this day, we remember Chili. We tell, I remember when he used to do this, and we laugh. And so if you have someone
Chili's
in your life,
mom, like that.
Yeah,
you're Chili's mom. You're Chili's mom. Mm-hmm.
If you're listening and you have someone in your life who's lost a pet recently, call them up and just ask them to talk about them. What are some of ask what their favorite memories are. It's really therapeutic to talk about that pet. And it's always really a great feeling when someone else recognizes what that animal meant to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think more and more in society, we're becoming aware of how important pets are. I mean, a lot of companies nowadays will give you bereavement days when your pet passes.
Yes.
And that was not the case even 10 years ago. So I'm a typical male. When I have grief, I tend to internalize it and let it chip away at me until I have a total meltdown. So my advice to all of the men out there who think that they have to be tough and strong after the pet passes for the sake of their family, it's okay to be sad and it's okay to talk about it. And it's okay to go to a group, or it's okay to write, or it's okay to do art. All of those things are acceptable. The one thing you can't do is let it chew away at your soul. So just let it out, whatever healthy medium that may be, whether you're writing a blog or hopping onto a podcast and yelling into a microphone for 45 minutes a week. It doesn't particularly matter, but that would be my advice.
It's great. That's great.
So, let's turn things around a little bit on a more uplifting note. How is Sir Alvin doing? Your newest Cocker Spaniel?
Yes, I definitely believe Dexter had a sense of humor sending me. I hadn't raised a puppy in a long time, Kristen. And I now know my neighbors who go to work at 5 a.m. We're out there at 11:30 at the curb going, go, 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 potty, he's awesome. He's brought such joy back. And that's the thing. I wasn't going to do this again. Really, working in the pet space, I thought, never again. I could never not do this again. He brings such joy. A friend of mine said to me, why would you deny yourself the thing on earth that gives you the greatest joy ever? Mm. And once I looked at it that way, I'm not cheating on my dead dog. I'm actually honoring him by bringing another, and he's excellent. He's just cuckoo bonkers and everything that a 2-year-old Cocker Spaniel should be. He's on my leg right now. I wish I could turn the camera. He's literally chewing my leg.
that sounds like a Cocker Spaniel to me.
We're going to wrap up soon, but before we go, can you tell us about some of the most memorable experiences you've had advocating for Cocker Spaniels?
Yeah. Oh my God. What a really good question. We've done, I formed a group called Wiggle Butt Warriors, and we, to raise money, you could say, hey, help a homeless dog. But if you say, hey, come to my dog's wedding, hey, dress your dog up and we're all going to go to a pet friendly amusement park and ride the rides together. Or you say, we're going to go to a pet friendly winery and drink wine with our dogs, and we're going to dress up and make it a big event. People are like, take my money. And so, we've raised over $100,000 in 5 years for Cocker Spaniels in need. We've helped dozens get home because people like to have fun. And it's normal to want to take your dog out. And now there's more pet-friendly wineries, too. Yep. So I love that because they ban the kids, but they let the dogs go. So it's like the ultimate. And no, I'm heaven. Not anti-kid. I'm just very pro-dog.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. I like that saying. Not anti-kid, just very pro-dog. I love that. So before we let you go, Carol, you're all over the internet. Where can folks find you to read more of your stuff?
Yeah, you literally could Google Carol Bryant dogs and that's me. Or you can go to fidoseofreality.com and come on over and follow my blog. I also write a lot about anything I write about is applicable to all dogs. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both.
This was great. I managed to hold back the tears. So the
good.
Perfect dose.
Let it out, Chris. Let it out.
Thank you. Well, thanks a lot for your stories and your time. And I look forward to seeing you at Global next year because you mentioned you'll be there. So I'll see you there.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Pets add life.
That was emotionally exhausting in like a good way. It is tough to sort of think about some of the pets that may not be here anymore, but you know, it's very true about that connection that you can make with other people over that shared experience.
Yeah, everybody who's listening has either, you know, been through it once or maybe more than once. So I think everybody can relate to that, and finding ways to honor that pet's memory is just super healthy and, you know, helps you move on to be with another animal.
Yeah. I mean, you have to move on, right? You eventually do have to. And I like to think that all of our furry friends up there across the Rainbow Bridge want us to very badly. So it is just one of the many ways that we could continue to honor our pets even after their passing. So on that note, though, I think we're going to go ahead and get back into the fun. So we'll go ahead and dive into that next.
The product of the week.
Well, I'll go ahead and kick us off with my product of the week. Product of the week. I've got something fun here. With fall coming up, last week we talked about Pawtoberfest. The Oktoberfest and fall-based beers are all getting brewed at the breweries. I love myself a nice maple stout or a nice American amber or a Marzen beer. But you know who can't have beer? Dogs. Dogs can't have beer. And this makes me sad. This makes me very, very sad. So luckily for us, the proud folks of JoJo Modern Pets thought, what if a dog could have beer? And they have developed a line of dog-friendly beer called Bottom Sniffer, which is hilarious. I mean, we're already off to a great start. Everybody knows that a good beer brand should be a little bit edgy, a little rambunctious. But they, you know, you could go right onto their website. I'm of course going to include the link, and obviously there's no alcohol. It is non-alcoholic, non-carbonated because animals shouldn't have any extra gas thrown into them at any point in time. Believe me. And it's, I mean, I always make fun of some like bad beers being like bread flavored seltzer water. That's kind of what you're getting here for the dog, but dogs don't get bread. Like they do, they like it. It's vegan. It's actually quite healthy. They put a couple supplements in there, sneak them in there. It's not a whole lot of carbs or fibers or anything like that. It's a great little treat. It's just fun. You know what I mean?
Do dogs
it's
really
not
like it though? I mean,
did
the dogs really like it and drink it?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this brand at Global Pet Expo before, and I've seen folks with their dogs at the show stop and they'll pour a little out. They'll lap it up. They love it. So I think it's just a fun little thing for the beer-loving dog owners out there, of which I know there are many. So go ahead and check it out at JoJo Modern Pets. That's the Bottom Sniffer.
The Bottom Sniffer. Be sure to bring some along when you're doing your fall festival brewery tours so your dog can enjoy.
There you go. Well. That's exactly the plan.
Okay. So
what do you got for us?
My product is a fun one too. And I guess it kind of has a fall theme because, you know, some of the pictures I'm seeing online are people enjoying a bike ride with their dog in a sidecar when the weather's beautiful. So these are, let's see, the name of them is the Sidecar. It's just called the Sidecar, but it is a dog sidecar. And these are Scandinavian sidecars. They're made in Denmark. The website is scandinaviansidebike.dk. And, you know, I discovered these actually on social media. I saw a really cool sidecar that somebody had their dog riding in on their e-bike. And, you know, with the popularity of e-bikes just exploding, I thought this was a really cool way to include your dog on your bike ride. These Scandinavian ones, though, they are not inexpensive. They are super beautifully designed. They're very retro. There's some options that you can have on your sidecar, like a doggy door and, you know, the interior and whether or not you want sport striping on them. Very pricey, probably in the neighborhood of $2,000 US. But I have seen some kind of knockoffs and some definitely more affordable options on Amazon and Etsy, although I haven't researched those. I don't know if, you know, this this obviously has to be very safe and very well secured to the bicycle. But if this is something that interests you, it might be worth taking a look at and even checking out some of those lower cost options.
Biking's making a comeback, man, here in the States. It's funny that it's a Scandinavian company because over there it's all bikes all day.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a huge demand for, walkable cities and safer biking lanes and things like that. So get in on the ground level, folks. You want to be hipster about this biking stuff. You want to be into it before it's cool. Go ahead and hook yourself up with a nice little sidecar. Get Fido riding shotgun. I can see it now. I'm actually picturing it in my mind's eye, how cool the people who use this product are.
Oh, yeah. The dogs are wearing goggles.
Yes, that's exactly what I saw. The dog's wearing goggles. They've got like that, like the leather bomber jacket on with like the fur inlay. Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing. So we're on the same page with this one.
Q&As.
Kristen, guess what? It's time for our favorite part of the show where we answer questions from you. Not you, Kristen, you, our wonderful audience. So again, if you want your question answered by the two pals on this show, go ahead to petsaddlife.org/podcast. Scroll on down to the bottom of the screen. You can type your question in right there. Or if you're feeling as brave as I am today, because I'm feeling mighty brave, you could record a voice memo and you may hear your question played on the show. So without further ado, Kristen, I've got a question for you.
All right, hit me with it.
And this question comes from Tom in Austin, Texas. Thanks for the question, Tom. Tom asks, I recently adopted a puppy and I want to ensure he grows up to be well socialized. What are some key strategies and activities I can use to help him become comfortable and friendly with other dogs and people? Great question.
That is a great question. And congratulations, Tom, on being that thoughtful about, understanding the importance of socializing your puppy. It's a really important part of their development. They say that the early socialization period is between 3 to 14 weeks of age. So I'm not sure how old your puppy is, but let's just assume that you got your puppy at 8 weeks of age. This is you've got a few weeks of really good time to instill some confidence in your puppy. And then of course, as he or she grows into an adult, continue to socialize your puppy. So they say start early and start with gradual exposure. Like you don't want to just take your puppy to like a fall festival, on day one, right? You don't want to overwhelm them with exposure. And you want to introduce them to experiences gradually. Also use positive reinforcement when you want the puppy to know that this is a good experience, this is fun, even though it's brand new for them. Maybe you talk to them in that happy puppy voice and you reward them. And some other good things you can do are join puppy classes. They have puppy socialization classes, hopefully in your area. You can also schedule play dates with other dogs and puppies. Obviously, you want to make sure they're well matched for your puppy. And I know it's also important to not introduce puppies to other puppies too early, like before they've had their vaccinations and that sort of thing. So just kind of follow those rules and expose them to not only dogs, but to people, to children, and to different environments too. And definitely to the car. You want to make sure that you expose your puppy to an occasional car ride so that they get used to knowing that that's a safe and can be a fun environment. So those are a few tips, and best of luck with your puppy, Tom.
You're going to need it. I do have one quick thing to add. As the dog comes out of puppy and begins to become a little more independent, when I think about socializing dogs, this is a tip I get all the time from people. Leave them alone sometimes. Put them in the crate. Let them be alone if you're going to run to the grocery store. A lot of people think socializing their dog means consistently occupying them, which is true to an extent. But if you don't get the dog comfortable being alone early on, they're going to have that dreaded separation anxiety, and you're going to have a hard time leaving them alone for extended periods of time if you have to. So I guess a small note on the flip side of things.
That's an excellent point. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because you also want to teach your puppy that being alone is fun and enjoyable too.
Yeah, it's fine. We all got to be alone sometimes.
Okay,
right,
so
what do
I
you
have
got
a
for me,
question
Kristen?
for
Do your
you.
worst.
Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, this question is from Melissa in Chicago. She says, I've been researching healthier food options for my dog and want to move away from commercial pet foods. Can you suggest some nutritious homemade recipes or organic brands that provide balanced diets for dogs?
All right, that's a great question, Melissa. Of course, classic this show, asking the Italian guy about food and homemade food. But hey, I'm gonna go ahead and say I am a bit of an expert when it comes to that stuff. So here's the first thing I'm gonna say is if we're gonna move away from off the shelf dog food, just in general, you're gonna start preparing your dog's food. What I always suggest is avoid just giving the dog some of your food. You should cook separately for your dog because there's a lot of stuff that we eat that even a little bit can make your dog sick. And as an Italian, as I said, the number one thing that I warn people of is garlic. Garlic is not good for our animals. Just even like any of that garlic, leek, chives, onions, the stuff that makes our food taste really good and is in almost every recipe can make your dogs really, really, really sick, even just a little bit, and especially if they're a smaller dog and don't eat as much. So that's why I always recommend food that is healthy and delicious for a dog is not going to taste good to a person. It's not going to have any salt. It's not going to have any spices. It's not going to have any sugar. What I do when I'm going to leave my cat with a cat sitter for an extended period of time is I will just bake a chicken breast, nothing else, no oil, no salt, no pepper, nothing. I'll just bake that. And then I'll throw it in the freezer just to tighten it up. And then I'll cut it into little cubes and then put it in a Ziploc bag. And those are like high-end cat treats. She loves it. It's perfectly healthy for her. But with dogs, I would say you're looking at lean proteins. You're looking at some fish every now and again. And some dairy could actually be good for dogs. In a limited quantity, cheese can help build their calcium. It's good for their bones. Avoid things like nuts. Avoid anything with sugar. Avoid anything with salt. They don't need it like we need it. And there's all sorts of resources online. You could actually go on over to the American Kennel Club, and they have like a visual chart of what dogs can and cannot eat. So that's a great place to get started. And then, of course, if you're looking to buy that kind of food, there's all sorts of direct-to-consumer brands out there that basically do what I just described, throw it in a package, and then ship it to you. There's brands out there that it's like a meal kit where it comes in like one of those dry ice things because the food is so fresh that it might spoil. So there's all sorts of stuff out there that you can find. But I pride myself on doing that at home myself. So just make sure you're consulting your resources. And if you feel like a change in diet has impacted your animal's health, bring them to the vet, let them know what you changed, because that can be a sign of something else going on.
Good advice from the Italian culinary expert.
Yeah, the Italian guy. We need some type of an Italian pun because we got Chris B, the Science G. I don't know. It gets a little dicey when you throw somebody's heritage into the mix. So maybe we just avoid that in general.
Maybe we should. Okay. That's probably a good time.
So
Go ahead.
Do you see my lower third there now? I'm Chris, the Italian guy, in our lower third in the studio here. So yeah, that's actually, I'm going to change my name on LinkedIn from Chris Bonafati to Chris, the Italian guy, the Italian guy who gives animal advice. But until then, hey, I think that's the end of our show.
I think it is.
I think that's
another
all we do.
Good show in
until
the
next
can.
Tuesday. Yeah. Speaking of cans and all this food, we're coming up on lunchtime here. So Kristen, what are you getting for lunch today?
Whatever I see in the fridge first. I'm starving.
Okay. Fridge first, ask questions last. I struggle with the anxiety of picking my lunch, so I like going to our little corporate cafeteria and just saying, "Feed me," like some type of zombie, and then they just make food. And
they just make it for you.
I'm lucky that I'm not allergic to anything, and there's no food I strongly dislike, so they could pretty much make it.
It makes it easy, and it's kind of fun to be surprised. So not even have to think about it.
That's the gift, right? Is not having to think about it. Because is there anything more stressful? I always say that adulting is the act of having to decide what's for dinner for the rest of your life. And that's what it means to be an adult. So that childlike wonder.
You're
of
such
just
a
being
baby
served a
adult.
plate
You're
of
just a
food.
brand new little adult. It's so cute.
Just a brand new little adult trying to figure it out one step at a time.
Wait till you're
And
my
to
age.
all of yeah, when I was your age. Okay, all right. Thanks, Grandma Kristen. Yeah, right. Anyway, folks, we thank you so much for listening to our nonsense every single week in and week out. We'll be back next Tuesday with high energy and wonderful stories as always. But until then, be good to yourself, be good to your pets, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.